In this series, lowimpact.org talks with people working to build a mutually owned, democratic, decentralised economy that builds community and doesn't destroy nature. We want to increase collaboration to bring about system change. Find links to the sites mentioned in the videos in the description below. Join the conversation by liking, commenting and subscribing to our channel.
I'm a big fan of the World Economic Forum. Has this every year they bring out a thing called the World Economic Forum Risk Report. And I'm not going to show you, but I've got it on the wall elsewhere in my office, a picture of the report from 2016. And there's like 50, pandemics, financial crisis, migration, war, and basically 70% of the things that they described in 2016 as a risk are happening right now.
Yeah.
So I think that we are in the middle of the system crashing. It's not as if it's some future event.
Yeah.
The good news is that, if we survive a day, then it's one day towards the next system. And that's how I don't want to sound trite, because there's lots of people having a much worse time on a daily basis than me, obviously. But I don't think it's about some future event. I think it's happening now.
Yeah, I guess our task, the task is to get things in place which will sort of catch people if everything does fall over.
Well, don't you think that it's happening? That's why your work is so inspiring to me, is that you demonstrate examples of people providing mutual credit or mutual support in lots of ways right now, for the most part very small scale. But it's like it's like having a boat bobbing into there's an approaching storm, and there's a small boat with people sort of messing about in it, but the boat is available for us to get in and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so the tools and the platforms that you teach us about, I think we just have to be ready to learn, frankly. And I would be surprised when your book comes out if it doesn't have a big readership, because people will decide that now is the time, we've got to learn about this stuff. Before it was, weirdos with their, theories about money, or like people like me with strange ideas, but our ideas are no longer strange when the situation becomes dire. And I think now people are ready to learn and to practice and to take these suggestions forward.
I hope you're right. Yeah, my main premise is that the current money system is used as a way to buy and sell things, and also you can store it and hoard it and accumulate it, and it concentrates. And as long as that's the case, money will gravitate towards the stored wealth, because money attracts money and gives you access to the political system, so you can get things your way. And as long as you have that massive concentrated wealth, then, well, this was something I wanted to ask you. I didn't want to put these words in your mouth, but can we vote the problem away? Can we just vote for the right political party who will solve all our problems?
I don't think so. I think that voting for parties is the end of a process of change rather than something which causes change. Right. And it's a very dispiriting thing to be shown, to look at the choices that we're given. But I'll give you an example. So I met a group of design students in Istanbul not so long ago, when I was a climate criminal traveler, and there's 40 people sitting around in a room and said, "Are you worried about starving if the social situation continues to get worse?" It was pretty bad then, it was very bad. And every single person said, "No, if things get really bad, I'm going to go and stay with my uncle in Anatolia. He has a farm." Every single person in that room had an uncle in a farm in Anatolia. They had zero anxiety about surviving and living in the future when their city life collapsed. We don't have that luxury here in France or in the UK, but I think for large numbers of people, they have a kind of plan B, to go back to the land or back to their families. And for those who are sort of have migrated to cities now, they have all sorts of support systems in place that we're only dimly aware of. I think I've mentioned, I'm not sure if I mentioned it in my book, but where I live in France, we have a North African community, Arabs and Algerians mostly, with a lot of poor people. And I just asked one of our neighbors once, I said, "Well, do you get, is it difficult for you to get welfare support from the French state?" He said, "Why would we do that? We support each other. If people need food, or their child is sick, or they need something, we know, and it's organized each other."
Yeah,
I'll tell you how.
I've been talking with Will Ruddick, who has he's spreading mutual credit schemes through Africa, and they base they have groups called chamas, which are women's groups in communities, and they base their local mutual credit clubs on these chamas, and that's the key to their success, I think. And I think we need something like that in the West, some kind of really strong glue in communities. What do you say to people who think that technology will solve our problems?
I don't get. If as soon as I hear somebody say that, I kind of back off because I'm trying to teach myself not to get into pointless arguments. So I know if somebody says that, you're not going to change their belief. What I do is say, well, I think technology definitely has a role to play, and I do work with technology companies from time to time. But things like helping farmers sell their food directly to the people in the city using the internet, that's a technology activity or technology intermediated, and that's an incredible transformation in the making. If a farmer can go around the supermarkets and all the intermediaries and sell their food directly to you or me or somebody nearby, that transforms the fortunes of farmers in different parts of the world thanks to technology. Technology as being the tool that they use. And it also creates relationships that weren't there before. I mean, they have this thing called live streaming in Asia, where farmers, they pick up their phone and they say, "Oh, look at these mangoes, they're great today. How many do you want?" And if you trust the guy, frankly, they're like street traders, and there's nothing fancy about it. But if you like the look of the guy, you can press a button and the mangoes will show up the next day. And so many people I know have a kind of a relationship with the people who grow their food, which I didn't have throughout my life since I was a kid. And that just brings a bit of quality into your life, as well as getting food for better quality and half the price.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to come back to your article about IKEA, which I thought was fascinating. I'll put the link below so people can see it. I thought it was superb. It's a company that wants to be very, very sustainable, but also wants to keep growing forever. And if you try to say, well, that's not possible, it's really difficult to have that conversation because they're operating in an economy where all their competitors are trying to grow. So they have to grow or die. I think Jason Hickel is really good on this subject, but how do we introduce the idea that a perpetually growing economy is more or less suicidal when a lot of people's careers depend on them not understanding that?
Well, Professor Hickel's another one of these people who's a very brilliant guy who has taken upon it himself to persuade us all that degrowth is a good idea, which I think is admirable. But that's something I tried, for the last 20 years with a complete lack of success because I have no stamina. I stopped. And IKEA is a good example. I was in a room with 200 people whose whole lives are about making IKEA's activities sustainable. And if you read in the article, at the end of this kind of 2-day meeting, somebody came and said, yes, and by the way, the company is going to double in size in the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so anything good that these people did by reducing the amount of wood in a bookcase or the amount of varnish on a cupboard, the good was going to be more than outdone by the bad because the company doubling in size.
Yeah.
And you can't just tell people, their jobs, their mortgages, their credit cards, their incentives, their social status is all about growth. And so I don't have an argument to people I know we can't grow forever. And the disaster that we're in now is, I sort of think that the smoke coming out of the hood of the economy is partly because the economy can't grow forever, and it's kind of running out of puff, so to speak. I think that's happening now in terms of the credit and energy costs and all sorts of things. And so it's not that my arguments or anybody else's have made much of a difference. It's just that it's biophysics. You can't expand a machine to infinity on a finite base. You just can't. So I'm afraid I think that the growth question will be solved by the degrading and collapse of the old economy, which is happening now. Which is another reason why we have to come back to, if it's going to happen anyway, what do we need to do to prepare, which is where you and I where our work comes in.
It's a shame we can't wake people up to that particular issue before it, before some sort of a crash, or at least.
I think that, don't you think that COVID has changed that for so many people that, the organic substance has now hit the fan for so many people in so many different ways, and that the question of, where do I get medical help, or how do I feed my family, or where am I going to live, is very real for people even in the rich countries now. And so it's no longer about having arguments about growth, it's about how are we going to meet our daily life needs. Some people call it a foundational economy, and the basic stuff, which we used to think was just for poor people somewhere else in the world. But now, if you go to America, I have a lot of friends there, family there, vast numbers of people, are homeless and kind of living this extraordinary semi-feral lives, more not well documented by the media, but there's millions upon millions of people who have kind of fallen through. They didn't have a safety net like we think we have here. But people, either they don't make it or they do make it. And that's, I think, where you go and look in Detroit or any of those kind of Rust Belt cities, there are incredible richness of social solidarity and indeed mutual credit of all kinds going on, maybe very small, but for the most part, it's not so common that people are left to die of starvation. If people's noticed, and if people have the chance to help, that's not human nature to do that. So it's not that I'm optimistic about what's happening. I just think that there's a gigantic amount of little positive things out there that we can learn from.
So you contacted me about my upcoming book, Building a New Economy Around a Mutual Credit Core. What interested you about that?
So I have the same relationship to money experts and credit experts as I do to climate experts, which is that I can see it's important, but I've never understood what you're all on about, because it's all very abstract and you have to have 5 PhDs and thick glasses to understand it. And I now think that and more importantly, people who just need to find new ways to help each other, we are ready to be told, okay, what is available for us to kind of provide help to each other on things that other than just kind of immediate stuff. And so mutual credit, which in my very modest reading has an incredibly long history, lots of different kinds. So I guess we're ready for the next generation of mutual credit. So people like yourself who understand the madness of the system that we all kind of swallowed for all my life, if that system is kind of blowing up around us, what are we going to replace it with? And so all these ways of avoiding having banks and hedge funds and those sorts of people wrecking the place, how can we do it for ourselves directly? And what I find inspiring, like in your website, is to see people doing it, and you don't have to be some kind of genius or saint to do it. That's what I find most inspiring, is that very normal people provide credit to each other in cooperatives and lots of different ways, and we can all do it. It's just taking that first step.
I have to tell you, John, in my conversations with working class people, I've got a cousin who owns a small factory in the West Midlands, and I was having a conversation with her, and I said, "What do you think's going to happen over the next few years?" And she said it's going to be terrible. I said, "What if there's not going to be much money about? There's not going to be any money about." I said, "What about if you had a way of trading that didn't require any money? If your customers could buy from you if they had no money, and you could buy from your suppliers if you had no money?" And she was all ears. She said, well, of course, that would be a fantastic thing. So, well, it's really easy. Mutual credit is just, you have an account. If you buy, your account goes down. If you sell, your account goes up. And you just do this. And there's no money involved at all. It's just numbers in an account. And she got it instantly. And in my experience, especially sort of small business people, plumbers, landscape gardeners, they don't need PhDs. They just, it's a very easy concept at core, and they get it quite quickly. Small business people get it.
And it's all about small businesses, local business people, and if you trust them and have some sort of connection, maybe not first hand, she's reliable, she'll pay up, or she'll kind of do whatever she needs to do. That's what it's all about. And therefore, if you just talk about, where I live in a small town in France, where it's incredible. There's very little paperwork in our, somebody came to fix our bathroom, and he came along with a friend, and they spent 2 or 3 days. I haven't got an invoice or anything. It's all kind of, where's the paper? There isn't any paper. He just knows we all live in the same town. And
you're not going anywhere. Yeah.
No, exactly. And maybe sadly, I can't give him a lecture about sustainability to pay off my debt to him. But that's a sad fact about it. But, yeah. So people with skills like that, they're laughing, I have to say. But I remember 20 years ago being told by, the next generation before me, learn a trade, learn how to be a plumber, then you'll be all right. I should have listened to it, because those people, everybody needs plumbers, no matter what system you're
They
living
do.
under.
They do.
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing now is that the software exists, the protocols and the technology exists for all of those little local mutual credit schemes to federate together and trade with each other. So if you're trading if you can't find what you need in your local area, you can trade with a business in another mutual credit scheme. But you know that they're part of a trusted group as well. So you know that they can be trusted.
So I'm just curious, Dave, about how you think you can begin to kind of give people the confidence who are doing it to do it, just try it, or just do it more. And when things take off, what are the conditions where things take off beyond a few kind of very passionate people?
It's already taken off in Africa. It's Will Roddick was telling me I'm going to interview one of his directors soon as well and have a chat with her. But they've got 48,000 households, small business people signed up in Kenya, and they did $3 million worth of trade last year. No money changing hands, and he's really keen to federate and look at what's happening in other parts of the world. I know I interviewed Mercedes from Colombia. She went over to Kenya to see what he was up to, and she's doing the same thing in Colombia now. And Will says that this is going to really spread and take off in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And Europe and North America is going to be, late comers to the party.
Yeah, because shipwrecked people, clambering ashore.
So they haven't got the poverty that, he doesn't bother explaining things philosophically to the people that he recruits. He just said, here's a way of trading with no money. Here you go, join up, and they do, and they're away. He said there's no need to have any kind of philosophical conversations at all. Just give people a tool that works for them, and they'll use it.
So I think that's what I hoped you would say, and I'm sure that if somebody will come along and tell me how to do it as the people in my village, then I'm sure I could find half a dozen. And I suspect they're doing it already, to be honest. I'm sure that I know for a fact that the African communities have all sorts of kind of parallel economies going on based on, not cash, but all sorts of things.
Yeah.
White guy, I'm a white foreigner, so I'm not part of their scene. But, next stage would be for people I meet to get involved, and I'm sure it's possible. It'll happen for sure.
But in the West, I mean, I'm part of a group of people called Mutual Credit Services, and we're developing a package to give to people in communities who would like a mutual credit club. So we're talking to local authorities, we're talking to food groups in Devon, we're talking to local authorities, we're talking to accountants who have a little group of businesses around them. We're talking to existing business networks, and so any of these groups can have a little package and start their own little mutual credit club. And they straight out of the box, they can federate, and they'll be able to trade with other groups. And I mean, this is in Sardinia. There's a group called Sardex. They're doing 50 million euros worth of trade every year, 4,000 businesses. That's just on the island of Sardinia. So it does work. It definitely does work. It just needed some sort of a stimulus to get it spread. And I think COVID and the results of the economic effects of the COVID lockdowns could be just that stimulus, really.
Well, I was talking to somebody from the Open Food Network, and they're the people who set up the kind of, if you're a farmer, how on earth are you supposed to know how to set up a shop on the internet if you're a farmer? So answer, the Open Food Network provides a kind of network of people who get them started. And they've gone up 900%, of course, since COVID, of people with a farm full of food, and they have to be a farmer. They can't start becoming an internet designer, for God's sake.
Yep. I've interviewed Lynn. Yep.
Ah, fantastic. So I think maybe get Lynn, who's got, the whole sort of food sort of architecture happening. Maybe you bolt into the Mutual Credit Club software as a service that they can provide.
We need to get a prototype up and running. We need to get an example of a working project, and for sure we'll be talking to co-ops and people like the Open Food Co-op, the Open Food Network, and we've got co-op people in the group, and we're talking to co-ops. The Preston model is a really interesting thing as well. The local authorities giving priority to local small businesses, and we'll train people to set up co-ops if there's a niche that needs if there's a gap.
I think the thing that's a crucial thing to me is that you don't expect people to learn everything by themselves. You need some sort of buddy system, or be a bit like the Avon lady, a person who goes and shows somebody how to do it the first 2 hours. I don't know how long it takes, or a day. Some sort of, so it's person to person, because that's how the old community supported agriculture, which is people sitting around in their kitchens on a Friday, adding up bits of paper saying, food coming and going. If it's now going to be some sort of app-based thing, just give people the opportunity to say, I don't understand technology, I can't do my phone, which are people like me, and then help them do it, and then just have a buddy system, and they help each other. That's how you get it started, I'm sure.
Yeah. We need local champions, whether they're part of the local authority or part of an existing business network, or whether they're accountants or just concerned people in communities.
I'm very obsessed by the number of local people who are looking for something that they can contribute by way of time or their place. This notion, there are so many people who want to do things differently. You meant doctors, GPs. I was listening to a GP talking about bacterial urbanism the other day. She said she's fed up with spending, she sits at her GP's clinic waiting for people to come in sick who eat badly or get polluted or whatever, or have rotting houses. She wants to go upstream and talk to the people who build the houses or grow the food or whatever. But in her life as a GP, she finds it very difficult to kind of get out of her GP box. And there's so many people, librarians, many towns still have libraries that they could be the ones, go to your library and learn how to set up a mutual credit club. And the librarians are brilliant people. They're very good at explaining things for the most part, and maybe they could be your local champions.
Yeah, I think there's an enormous pool of people who would love to do things locally, and to sort of really try to grow something different if they knew what to do. And mutual credit is certainly an example of something they could do.
Well, I mentioned, I think when we've communicated in the past, the code club phenomenon. People in the technology industry got the idea that there weren't enough people knowing how to do computer code, which is to me a mystery because I think everybody does that. But they set up a thing called code.org that is a kind of pyramid scheme without money to help people get hooked on coding. And then as soon as you do an hour of it, free, and then after that, you can go and do 1 million courses. And they have had 200 or 300 million high school students have done a code.org 1 hour over 6 or 7 years. So I think a model like that for mutual credit, 1 hour, just try it out for an hour. It won't cost you anything in a local library or in a local cafe or whatever. And then those who get it can become your champions. So you get the kind of pyramid effect. And you just need to get the first 20 people.
That's a very good idea. That's a very good idea. So just finally, I mean, after your career working in sort of more or less sustainable design and sustainability generally, what do you think is the most likely? What do you think is the most likely to happen to humanity? Where do you think we are possibly going?
I think we're going to muddle through in conditions of great chaos and uncertainty, and I haven't a clue what's going to happen really, but I think all the kind of mess that we're experiencing now was really ghastly. If you're in India or something where the whole system has collapsed, that's I hope that's as bad as it can get, but it's not some future prospect, it's something that's happening now. And I know that India has been through hundreds, thousands of years of difficulties of one sort or another. They have a lot of very incredibly brilliant people. They get things sorted out somehow. And I think we'll be the same. I'm not saying we'll all make it. I'm not saying that we'll stop all the kind of bad consequences suddenly. But I have a lot of confidence that if we can stop thinking in abstractions and just work with each other, we can achieve a lot, I think, and we will. I know, I can see it happening around me.
I think you're right. I mean, we've recently been contacted by somebody from India. He said he's living in a city of 4 million people, and he wants to start a mutual credit scheme in his city. And I think people in places like India are so used to sort of finding ways to get by, and they're so innovative. And I think that that's going to be a very, very fertile ground.
Just say yes, do it. Here's a kit, and go tell us how you get on. 4 million people is a tiny place. It's like my village in India. It's like a tier 4 million people. So, and many people tell me that it's in these smaller cities that all the change is going to happen first. In the big ones, they're kind of, you're in the center of things. The problems seem bigger, but there's a hive of activity. You can't think straight. Smaller cities, like smaller communities, is where these changes will happen. So if you have a chance to try out some tier 4 Indian cities, then go for it, for sure.
Yeah. All right, John, it's been lovely talking with you.
Good luck with the book. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. It's been an honor to meet you. So great. And I'm going to be putting the word out. I mean, I know it's going to be good. I haven't read it yet. You haven't finished it yet.
No, I haven't read it yet.
Good luck.
I'll definitely be in touch and let you know when it's out.
Okay. Lovely talking. Take care.
Thank you, John. Bye-bye.
Bye.